The Great Hall of Station Meridian was built for giants. Its ceilings rose so high that clouds formed near the top. Light came from floating crystals that hummed with ancient power. 12 species had gathered here for 3,000 years to decide the fate of the galaxy. They called themselves the Galactic Conquered, and they believed they were the masters of all things. Admiral Park stood at the entrance and looked up. Her neck hurt from the angle. The had designed this place to make visitors feel small. It was working. She wore the simple gray uniform of the Human Defense Fleet. No medals, no ribbons, just the name Park stitched above her heart. Behind her stood Lieutenant, a young officer with sharp eyes that missed nothing, and Doctor, whose white coat seemed out of place among the military crew. "They want us to feel like children," whispered. "Let them think what they want," replied. Her voice was calm. It was always calm. The walk to the central platform took 10 minutes. Along the way, aliens of every shape watched them pass. Some had too many eyes. Some had no eyes at all. Some floated. Some crawled. All of them looked at the humans with the same expression. Amusement. A child pointed at with 3 of its crystal fingers. Its parent made a sound that might have been laughter. The translator in its ear converted it to words. "Look, a monkey that walks upright." Kept walking, she had heard worse. Ambassador Shin was already waiting at the platform. He was an old man with white hair and tired eyes. He had spent 40 years trying to earn respect for humanity among the stars. He had failed 40 years in a row. "Admiral," he said with a small bow, "thank you for coming." "Ambassador," returned the bow, "how bad is it today?" "The same, maybe worse." Looked toward the 12 thrones that circled the platform. Each throne was sized for its species. The smallest belonged to the mouse-like creatures barely a foot tall. The largest belonged to the crystalline giants who stood 20 feet high. High Speaker sat upon that throne now. His body was made of living glass that shifted colors with his mood. Right now, he glowed a deep purple, had learned that purple meant contempt. "The human delegation may speak," the High Speaker announced. His voice rang like a bell being struck. Stepped forward. His translator converted his words into the universal tongue. "Honored members of the Conquered, humanity requests permission to expand into the Vela sector. The region is unclaimed. Our population grows. We need room to—" Laughter interrupted him. It came from every throne at once. High Speaker raised one hand, and the laughter stopped. "The Vela sector borders our sacred territories. We cannot allow chaos monkeys to live so close to our children." "We are not," began. "You are exactly what your history shows." The High Speaker waved his hand, and a hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed Earth. It showed wars, bombs falling, cities burning, forests dying. "You killed your own world," the High Speaker said. "You killed each other over patches of dirt. You created weapons that could end all life, and you came close to using them. Many times." The hologram changed. It showed human colonies in space, riots, political fights, a small war between Mars and Earth that lasted 3 months. "Even now you fight among yourselves. You live such short lives and waste them on anger and fear." The High Speaker leaned forward. "Every young species is foolish, but humans are especially foolish. We tolerate you because you are useful for simple tasks, but we will never trust you with anything important." Felt tense beside her. She placed a hand on his arm, a warning. "The humans are," the High Speaker declared. "This matter is closed." The walk back to the entrance felt longer than before. The aliens watched them go. Some made sounds of pity. Others made sounds of mockery. A few simply turned away as if the humans were not worth watching at all. Outside the Great Hall, their shuttle waited. It was small and old. The paint was chipped. The engine made a sound it should not make. Compared to the sleek vessels of the elder races, it looked like a toy. Slammed his fist against the wall once they were inside. "How long must we accept this? They treat us like animals. Because they do not know, said quietly. Do not know what? Looked at, the doctor understood. She sealed the shuttle door and activated the privacy shields. Do not know why we stopped, continued. They see our history and think we grew weak. They see our quiet fleets and think we have no power. They see our patience and think it is fear. She sat in the pilot's chair and started the engine. 3,000 years ago, humanity made a choice. We chose to be laughed at. We chose to be mocked. We chose to let them believe they were better than us. Why? Asked. Did not answer right away. She guided the shuttle away from Station Meridian, past the massive ships of the elder races, toward the small human carrier waiting in the distance. Because the alternative, she finally said, was too terrible to consider. We remember what we were, Lieutenant. We remember why the galaxy should fear us, and we pray every day that we never have to remind them. Wanted to ask more, but something in his eyes told him to stay silent. In the darkness of space, the shuttle flew home, and somewhere far away in a region called the Hollow, something old and angry began to stir. The Hollow had no stars. That was the first thing every spacer learned about it. 40 light years of nothing. No planets, no moons, no asteroids, just empty darkness that swallowed everything that entered. Admiral stood on the bridge of the carrier Perseverance and stared at the map. The Hollow appeared as a black circle surrounded by normal space. Ships had gone in. None had come out. For 10,000 years, the conquered had marked it as forbidden and moved on. Now they needed answers. 12 research ships, Captain Lee reported. He was a solid man with a square jaw and steady hands. Gone 3 weeks ago. The conquered wants to know what happened. And they send us, Commander Song added. She commanded the science vessel inquiry, and her voice carried through the communication link. Because we are expendable. Because we volunteered, corrected, but she did not disagree with his meaning. The human fleet was small, 12 ships total. The Perseverance was the largest, and it was barely half the size of a standard cruiser. Their weapons were old. Their shields were older. On paper, they had no chance against whatever killed the research fleet. On paper. Ensign worked at the sensor station. He was young, barely 25, with the kind of mind that saw patterns where others saw noise. Admiral, I am picking up something strange. Define strain. The Hollow is not empty. Fingers moved across his console. There are structures inside, very old, very large, and something is generating power at the center. The bridge went silent. Doctor moved to stand beside. She studied his readings with narrow eyes. These energy patterns, I have seen them before. Where? Asked. Hesitated. In restricted files. Files that were sealed before the first contact with the conquered. Files about old Earth. Lieutenant stepped forward. What are you saying? I am saying that whatever is in the Hollow was not built by aliens. Met's eyes. It was built by humans. The fleet crossed into the Hollow 6 hours later. The darkness was complete. No light from outside reached them. Their ships moved on instruments alone, guided by careful calculations. They found the fleet on the second day. 12 ships hung in the void. Their lights were on. Their engines were cold. They drifted without purpose like dead leaves on still water. No damage, reported. Hulls intact, no signs of weapons fire. Life signs? Asked. Checked his readings twice before answering. None, Admiral. All 12 ships, no survivors. They boarded the lead vessel with a team of 20, led them herself. She had to see. They were still at their stations. Crystalline bodies sat in chairs and stood at consoles. Their colors had faded to gray, the sign of death, but their faces were the worst part. Every single one wore an expression of pure terror, mouths open, eyes wide, as if they had seen something so horrible that their hearts simply stopped. What could do this? Whispered. What could scare them to death? Found the answer in the ship's log. The recording was broken, filled with static, but the final words came through clearly. "They remember us," a voice said. It was shaking with fear. "The sleepers remember us. They are waking. They are waking and they are angry. We should never have come. Tell the conquered. Tell everyone. The humans were right to be afraid. We should all be afraid." The recording ended. "Sleepers," said through the communication link. "What are sleepers?" Did not answer. She was looking at, the doctor had gone pale. "You know," said, "it was not a question." "I suspected," pulled out a small device. She pressed it against her own neck. For a moment, nothing happened. Then her eyes went wide and strange patterns moved across her skin like living circuits. "What is that?" demanded. "Genetic memory," said. Her voice was different now, deeper, older. "All humans carry it, the knowledge of what we were, what we did, what we chose to forget." She pointed toward the center of the hollow. 12,000 years ago, humanity ruled the galaxy. We were not the young species. We were the first, the original. The elder races are our children. We made them, lifted them, taught them. "That is impossible," said. "It is truth." His hand trembled as she lowered the device. "And when we became too powerful, too cruel, we fought among ourselves. The worst of us were sealed away in prisons between stars. The rest of us chose to forget. We burned our history, destroyed our technology, returned to Earth and started over as primitives." She looked at the dead. "The sleepers are the ones we sealed away. They are humans, ancient humans, and they are waking up." Felt the weight of 10,000 years settle on her shoulders. She had read the classified files. She had known pieces of the truth, but hearing it spoken aloud made it real in a way that hurt. "Get everyone back to the ships," she ordered. "We need to warn the conquered." "Will they believe us?" asked. Looked at the terrified faces of the dead aliens. "They will have to, because if the sleepers wake fully, there will be no conquered left to warn." Deep in the center of the hollow, something pulsed with ancient power. And for the first time in 12,000 years, human voices spoke in the darkness. They were not friendly voices. The message reached Earth in 3 days. It passed through relay stations and secure channels until it arrived at a place that did not officially exist. Deep beneath the surface of Luna, in a bunker carved from ancient stone, an old man opened his eyes. Grand Marshal Bay had been sleeping for 50 years. Not true sleep, but the kind that kept a body alive far past its natural end. His bones were 847 years old. His mind was older still. A young officer stood at his bedside. "Sir, Admiral Park has made contact. The hollow is active. The sleepers are waking." Said nothing for a long moment. He simply looked at his hands. They were thin and covered with age spots. Once, they had commanded fleets that could break worlds. Once, they had signed orders that ended civilizations. "I hoped," he said quietly, "that this day would never come." He rose slowly. His body ached, but his eyes were sharp and clear. "Prepare the archive, summon the Silent Council, and get me a ship to the hollow." While traveled, Doctor continued her work aboard the Inquiry. The genetic memory device had unlocked something inside her. Knowledge flowed like water from a broken dam. She wrote for hours without stopping. "The first flame," she said to, and the gathered officers. "That is what we called ourselves. 12,000 years ago, humanity spread across the galaxy in less than a century. We had technology that made the elder races look like children playing with sticks." She drew diagrams on a display screen, ships the size of moons, weapons that could crack planets, engines that folded space like paper. "We did not conquer through cruelty," she continued. "We were efficient. Wars ended in days because we made them end. We did not negotiate. We did not debate. We simply decided what was best and made it happen." "That sounds like tyranny," said. "It was," nodded. "We believed we were helping. We brought peace to 1,000 worlds. We ended diseases. We stopped famines. But we also removed choice. We decided who would live and who would die. We judged entire species based on our own standards." She paused. "The elder races did not evolve on their own. We made them. They were our art project. They were our pets. We played God because we believed we had the right." Leaned forward. "If we were so powerful, what happened? How did we fall?" We turned on each other. His voice grew heavy. "Some of us wanted to go further, to remake the galaxy completely, to destroy any species that did not meet our standards. They called themselves the Chosen. Others disagreed. They believed we had gone too far already. They called themselves the Reborn." Civil War said. "The worst war in the history of the universe. It lasted 1,000 years. Billions died. Entire star systems were erased from existence." Closed her eyes. "In the end, the Reborn won, but victory felt like defeat. We looked at what we had become and we were horrified." She opened her eyes again. "So we made a choice. The most dangerous among the Chosen were sealed in prisons between stars. The Hollow was the largest. The rest of us destroyed our technology. We wiped our memories. We returned to Earth and started over as primitives. We chose to forget so that we could never become that terrible again." "And the elder races?" asked. "We set them free. We removed our guidance and let them believe they had always been independent. We watched from the shadows as they built their civilizations. We laughed at their pride because we knew the truth, but we never corrected them." The room was silent for a long time. "The sleepers," finally said. "They are the Chosen, the ones who were sealed away." "Yes, and they have been dreaming for 12,000 years, dreaming of revenge, dreaming of reclaiming what they believe is theirs." Grand Marshal arrived at the fleet 3 days later. His shuttle was old and plain, but the moment he stepped onto the Perseverance, everything changed. Officers who had never met him felt the weight of his presence. It was like standing near a star. He met with in her private quarters. "You read the files," he said. "It was not a question." "Some of them enough to suspect." Sat heavily in a chair. "I was there, Admiral. I remember the war. I remember the Chosen. I remember sealing them away and telling myself it was over." "You are 800 years old." 847. He smiled, but there was no joy in it. "The oldest human still alive. The last survivor of the Reborn. I stayed awake to guard the secrets, to make sure we never went back. And now they are waking." "Yes," reached into his coat and pulled out a small device. It looked simple, like a child's toy. But when he pressed a button, the room filled with holographic images. Ships, thousands of ships, hidden beneath Mars and Luna and 100 other moons. Ships of black metal and burning light. Ships that made the fleet look like fishing boats. "We did not destroy all our technology," said. "We could not, just in case the sleepers ever woke. We built new ships in secret, better ships. We hid them and waited and prayed we would never need them." Stared at the images. "The galaxy thinks we are weak. The galaxy thinks what we wanted them to think. Our weakness was a performance, our peace was a choice." Stood. "But now the choice is over. The sleepers are coming, and humanity must remember what it truly is." He looked at with ancient eyes full of sorrow. "We must become terrible again, just one more time." The sleepers emerged from the hollow like nightmares given form. 7 dreadnoughts, each one the size of a small moon. Their hulls were black as void and covered with symbols that hurt to look at. Ancient human writing, words of power and conquest. At the head of the fleet flew the largest ship. Its name was Eternal Dominion, and its master was Warlord, the last leader of the Chosen. He had slept for 12,000 years. He had dreamed of fire and blood, and now he was awake. His voice broadcast across every frequency in the galaxy. Every ship, every station, every planet with a receiver heard his words. "Children of humanity," he said. His voice was deep and cold. "We have returned. The galaxy belongs to us. It has always belonged to us. Kneel before your masters and you may live as servants. Resist and you will burn. He paused. To the species we created, all the others who have forgotten their place. You are not our equals, you are our property. Return to your chains willingly, or we will drag you back in pieces. The Conquered's response was panic. Their fleets gathered near Station Meridian, a combined force of 10,000 ships. It was the largest military assembly in galactic history. It was not enough. The sleeper dreadnoughts cut through the first defensive line in minutes. Their weapons were beyond anything the Conquered possessed. Shields meant nothing. Armor meant nothing. Ships exploded like soap bubbles against a hurricane. High Speaker watched from his throne as reports flooded in. Half his fleet was gone. More died every second. His crystal body had turned white with terror. We cannot win, his advisor said. Their technology is too advanced. Our weapons are based on their old designs. They know every weakness. Because they gave us those designs, the High Speaker whispered. He finally understood the truth that humanity had hidden for 3,000 years. We are fighting our own creators. He ordered a channel open to the human fleet. Admiral's face appeared on his screen. High Speaker, she said calmly. You knew, his voice cracked. You knew what they were, what you were. You let us believe we were superior while you hid the truth. Yes. Why? The word was almost a scream. Why let us mock you? Why pretend to be weak? Was quiet for a moment. Then she said, because we were ashamed of what we had been. We wanted to be better. We thought if we stayed quiet, if we let the galaxy heal, the past would stay buried. The past is killing us now. I know, leaned forward. That is why we are going to stop it. The High Speaker laughed bitterly. With what? Your 12 ships, your old weapons, you are as helpless as we are. No, said, we are not. From across human space, the hidden fleet rose. Ships emerged from caverns beneath Mars. Carriers launched from the dark side of Luna. Destroyers crawled out of hollowed asteroids where they had waited for. The true human fleet numbered over 5,000 vessels. Each one was built with technology that made the sleeper dreadnoughts look primitive. In 12,000 years of secret development, humanity had not stayed still. They had evolved. Grand Marshal Bay stood on the bridge of the flagship Atonement. It was a ship of war unlike any the galaxy had seen. Black metal and burning light, weapons that could tear holes in space itself. All ships, he said, his voice carried the weight of centuries. This is Grand Marshal Bay. The sleepers believe they are the true heirs of humanity. They are wrong. They represent our worst nature, our cruelty, our arrogance. We sealed them away because they were a disease. He paused. Today we cure that disease, for the galaxy, for the species we created and then abandoned, for the chance to finally make peace with our past. All ships engage. The Battle of the Hollow began. Human fought human for the first time in 12,000 years. The void filled with fire and screaming metal. Dreadnoughts clashed with carriers. Destroyers swarmed like angry hornets. Warlord watched from his throne aboard the Eternal Dominion. His face showed confusion, then rage. Traitors, he snarled. You have forgotten your heritage. You have become as weak as the children we created. We have become something better, replied. Her ship, the Perseverance, led the vanguard directly at the enemy flagship. We have become human again. The battle lasted 9 hours. Ships died by the hundreds on both sides. Captain Lee lost his arm, saving his crew from a hull breach. Commander Song crashed her damaged vessel into an enemy destroyer to give her people time to escape. But slowly the tide turned. The sleepers had numbers and size. Humanity had something more. They had purpose. They had guilt. They had 12,000 years of wanting to prove they could be good. One by one, the dreadnoughts fell. Their ancient weapons could not match the new designs. Their old tactics could not predict the new strategies. They had slept too long. The universe had moved on without them. As the sixth dreadnought exploded, Warlord made his final move. He activated a weapon hidden in his ship's core, a planet killer, a device that could crack worlds from across a star system. He aimed it at the Conquered's capital planet, 10 billion lives. "If I cannot rule," he broadcast, "then no one will survive. This galaxy will burn, and in the ashes the worthy will rise again." The weapon began to charge. Lieutenant was flying patrol when he saw the readings. He understood immediately what was happening. There was no time to call for help, no time for a committee, no time for orders. He pointed his small interceptor at the charging weapon. One ship against a device meant to kill worlds. "Tell my mother I love her," he said into the recorder. "Tell the Admiral I was honored to serve." He pushed his engines past their limits. His ship screamed toward the planet killer. "No," his voice came through his communicator. "Someone has to, Admiral, and today it gets to be me." His interceptor hit the weapon 3 seconds before it fired. The explosion was massive but contained. The planet killer died, and so did Lieutenant. The Eternal Dominion fell silent. Warlord stood among the ruins of his bridge, watching his dream collapse. Grand Marshal's voice came through the speakers. "Surrender," the old man said. "It is over. You lost 12,000 years ago. You lost today. Let it end." Laughed, it was a broken sound. "Never," he said, and he reached for the self-destruct. He never made it. A single shot came through the shattered viewport. It hit him in the chest. He fell. Lowered her rifle. She had boarded the enemy ship herself, because some things had to be done in person. "For," she whispered, "for everyone you would have killed." The war was over. But the hardest part was still to come. The great hall of Station Meridian had never been so quiet. The 12 thrones still stood in their circle, but the beings who sat upon them had changed. Their pride was gone. Their certainty was shattered. They looked at the humans with new eyes. Admiral Park stood in the center of the platform. She wore a different uniform now. Black metal and burning symbols. The uniform of the First Flame. The uniform of humanity's true nature. Behind her stood Grand Marshal Bay, Dr. Captain Lee with his new mechanical arm, and Commander Song with bandages still covering half her face. They were wounded but alive. They had won. High Speaker rose from his throne. His crystal body was dull with shame. When he spoke, his voice no longer rang with arrogance. "We have studied the records recovered from the sleeper vessels," he said. "We have confirmed what you told us. The Conquered was built on lies. Our civilizations exist only because humanity allowed them to exist. We are not the elder races. We are the children." He paused. The next word seemed to cause him physical pain. "Why did you let us mock you? For 3,000 years we treated your people like animals. We laughed at your history. We refused your requests. We made your ambassadors beg for basic respect. Why did you accept this?" Looked at him for a long moment. Then she looked at each of the 11 other species in turn. All of them watching, all of them waiting for her answer. "Because you needed to believe you were strong," she said simply. "Because we had taken so much from you already. Your natural evolution, your independent history, your right to grow without interference. We could not give those things back, but we could give you pride." She stepped forward. "We let you mock us because your mockery did not hurt us. We knew who we were. We knew what we could do. Your laughter was not a wound. It was a gift we gave you. The gift of feeling superior even for a little while." "But we were not superior," the High Speaker said. "No, you were not, and that is precisely why you needed to believe you were." His voice softened. "A child needs to feel brave before they can become brave. We wanted you to grow, to develop, to become truly strong on your own, and you were doing exactly that, until the sleepers woke." An elder spoke up. Her tiny voice was amplified by the hall systems. "What happens now? Will you rule us again? Will you take back what you gave?" "No," The answer came from Grand Marshal. He stepped forward slowly, his ancient body supported by a simple cane. Humanity has no interest in ruling anyone. We tried that once. It destroyed us. It destroyed everything we touched. We will not make that mistake again. Then what do you want? The High Speaker asked. Forgiveness. His voice cracked. Not from you. We do not expect that. You have every right to hate us for what our ancestors did, but we need to forgive ourselves. We need to prove that we have changed, that we can be part of this galaxy without controlling it. He looked at, she nodded and continued. We propose a new agreement, not the Concord which was built on false foundations. Something new, something honest, the Stellar Compact. All species as equals, true equals, no hidden masters, no secret controllers. She raised her hand. On her palm, a small holographic symbol appeared. It was the old mark of the first flame, but changed. Where once it showed a fist holding a star, now it showed an open hand reaching toward a circle of smaller hands. Humanity will serve as guardians if you wish. We have the power to protect, but we will not command. We will not decide. Every species will govern itself. Every voice will be heard equally. This is our offer. The 12 species looked at each other. Thousands of years of politics and rivalry and fear swirled through the room. This was not an easy decision. It was not even a simple one. But in the end, every throne voted yes. 1 year later, Admiral Park became the first human High Speaker of the Stellar Compact. She did not win this position through force. She did not demand it through power. The 12 species voted for her unanimously. Because, the representative explained, you are the first human who made us feel like partners instead of projects. Grand Marshal retired to Luna. He had done his duty. He had carried the weight of 12,000 years on his shoulders. Now he could finally rest. Doctor established the Memory Archive, a library where all of humanity's hidden history was finally made public. Every secret, every shame, every choice they had made. She believed that only through honesty could they prevent the past from repeating. Captain Lee took command of the Perseverance. He led patrols along the edge of known space, protecting merchant ships from pirates and explorers from themselves. His mechanical arm became famous. Children on 100 worlds asked to touch it. Commander Song led the first expedition beyond the known galaxy. She took the science vessel Inquiry and a crew of volunteers from every species. They disappeared into the unknown with smiles on their faces. And in orbit around the hollow, now sealed forever, a memorial satellite circled endlessly. Ensign stood inside it every year on the anniversary of the battle. He read the names of the fallen aloud. Human names, alien names, all of them honored. When he reached Lieutenant's name, he always paused. He remembered the young officer who flew into death without hesitation, who saved 10 billion lives with one small ship. Ships from 100 species passed the memorial in silence. They came every year. They would come every year forever. On the final wall of the memorial, carved in stone that would last until the stars went cold, were words that had written herself. The galaxy remembers why humanity was feared, our power, our efficiency, our terrible, unstoppable will, but now they also know why we chose to hide that power, why we accepted mockery and scorn, why we pretended to be weak. Because the strong do not need the weak to fear them. The truly strong lift the weak up. The truly strong protect. The truly strong choose kindness when cruelty would be easier. We are not humanity the conquerors. We are not humanity the rulers. We are humanity the guardians, and we will stand watch until the last star fades. Far away, on a small blue planet called Earth, children played in fields of green grass. They did not know about the war. They did not know about the sleepers. They only knew that the sky was blue and the sun was warm and the universe was full of wonders. And in the darkness between stars, humanity watched over them all. Not as masters, as family,